In a sun-drenched Mexican village, Javier, a corn farmer, once relied on the rhythms of the land just as his ancestors had. But everything changed when NAFTA opened the market to subsidized American corn, collapsing local prices overnight. Suddenly Javier wasn't just competing with neighbors but with massive U.S. farms. His stable life became uncertain, not because of local misfortune but due to decisions made in Washington, D.C. This is the butterfly effect of American politics. A policy shift in the U.S. can upend lives across the globe. American political choices ripple outward, shaping destinies far beyond its borders. A vote in Ohio or a signature in Congress can mean prosperity for some, hardship for others, often in places most Americans will never see. The U.S., as the world's largest economy and a dominant power, wields influence that is both immense and often invisible. Javier's struggle is a microcosm of this reality. His fate was altered by debates and deals far from his fields. For Americans, NAFTA was about jobs and growth. For Javier, it was a force that reshaped his world. His story is a reminder. In our interconnected era, no nation is an island. The choices made in Washington echo in every corner of the globe, and for millions like Javier, those echoes are life-changing. American economic decisions, especially those of the Federal Reserve, set the tone for the global economy. When the Fed raises interest rates, it doesn't just affect Wall Street, it impacts borrowing costs from Nairobi to New Delhi. Investors flock to U.S. assets, strengthening the dollar and making it harder for other countries to repay debts or import essentials. The U.S. dollar's status as the world's reserve currency gives Washington extraordinary leverage. Most global trade is conducted in dollars, forcing countries to hold vast reserves just to participate. This demand lets the U.S. finance its deficits cheaply, but also means American economic shocks are felt worldwide. The 2008 financial crisis, born in the U.S. housing market, triggered a global recession. Proof of how tightly the world is tied to American fortunes. U.S. trade policies also send shockwaves. Tariffs on steel or solar panels can disrupt supply chains, raise prices, and cost jobs around the world. A trade war launched in Washington can shrink markets for German cars, Chinese electronics, or Canadian lumber overnight. These aren't abstract shifts. They're real consequences for workers and consumers everywhere. That's why presidential elections and congressional debates in the U.S. are watched anxiously in foreign capitals. The world depends on American economic stability, because when the U.S. economy sneezes, the world catches a cold. Even when American politicians speak to a domestic audience, their words are parsed globally. The stakes are high. U.S. economic choices shape the fate of millions far beyond its borders. In a globalized world, America's financial decisions are everyone's business. The world's prosperity is, in many ways, tied to the policies set in Washington. That's the true reach of American economic power. As the world's leading military and diplomatic power, U.S. foreign policy decisions redraw maps and shift global balances. When America intervenes, like in Iraq or Afghanistan, it changes the fate of entire regions, sparking instability and refugee crises that ripple far beyond the conflict zone. When the U.S. steps back, power vacuums emerge, often filled by rivals like Russia, China, or Iran. Alliances are tested, and nations scramble to adjust their own security strategies, sometimes fueling arms races or new tensions. America's presence as a mediator, especially in conflicts like Israel-Palestine, can make or break peace efforts. Decisions like withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal don't just affect one country, they strain alliances and escalate global tensions. The so-called Pax Americana underpins much of the world's fragile peace. Whether America continues as the world's policeman or retreats is a question with global consequences. The answer, shaped by U.S. voters and leaders, will define international security for decades. The world's stability often hinges on choices made in Washington. Nowhere is America's global impact clearer than on climate change. As a top emitter of greenhouse gases, U.S. leadership, or lack of it, can make or break global climate efforts. The Paris Agreement was possible because of U.S. diplomacy, but American withdrawal under Trump sent shockwaves undermining global momentum. Biden's decision to rejoin restored hope, but the whiplash revealed a deeper problem. U.S. climate policy can swing dramatically every few years. This unpredictability makes America a less reliable partner in the fight against climate change. Other nations hesitate, unsure if U.S. commitments will last beyond the next election. Domestic debates over clean energy and fossil fuels in Congress have direct worldwide consequences. A U.S. subsidy for renewables can accelerate the global green transition. A rollback of emission standards can worsen climate threats everywhere. For billions, the American climate debate is not abstract. It's about survival. The world needs steady U.S. leadership, not a pendulum. The stakes are nothing less than the planet's future. The U.S. has long been a model of democracy, inspiring movements and shaping constitutions worldwide. When American democracy is strong, it empowers reformers and offers hope to those under authoritarian rule. But when U.S. politics descend into polarization and dysfunction, autocrats point to the chaos as proof that democracy doesn't work. The world watches as American political tactics, populism, misinformation, and questioning election results spread globally. The events of January 6, 2021 shocked the world, showing that even the oldest democracy is vulnerable. These images undermined faith in democracy everywhere. The struggle to protect democratic norms in the U.S. is now a global struggle. America's example shapes the future of freedom far beyond its borders. The world's faith in democracy often rises or falls with America's own. America exports not just culture, but its social and political debates, now amplified by global social media. Issues like race, gender, and identity that start in the U.S. quickly become global flashpoints, shaping conversations from London to Seoul. Movements like Black Lives Matter inspire worldwide protests but also import American frameworks that don't always fit local realities. American culture wars are now fought on foreign soil, sometimes distorting or polarizing local debates. The world debates American problems, often on American-owned platforms. America's social struggles are now woven into the fabric of societies everywhere. No other country's politics matter as much globally as America's. A U.S. election is a world event, with decisions that shape economies, security, and the future of democracy everywhere. For billions, American choices affect daily life, yet they have no vote in the process. This is the democratic deficit of globalization. The world needs a stable, engaged America to tackle shared challenges, from pandemics to climate change. The health of American democracy is a global concern. When Americans vote, they hold a piece of the world's destiny. In our interconnected world, we are all part of the story unfolding in Washington.